Now, some of the biggest names in AI and data have taken part in the latest funding round of U.S. business AI firm Uniphore. The company raised $260 million, and we're delighted to be joined by Umesh Sachdev, the co-founder and chief executive of Uniphore. Umesh, thank you so much for joining us. I mean, I have a million questions on actually what customers want now. And you've been on this trip, you were in Davos. Now I understand you're doing some of the European capitals to speak to customers and clients to understand their needs and wants. What are they asking?
Well, great to be with you today, Francine. You're right, last week Davos, this week in France and now UK, probably met about 50 CEOs, CIOs. And the big theme I'm picking up, especially in Europe, is sovereign AI. Customers in Europe, big telecom companies, big banks, are very thoughtful right now of having, quote unquote, their own AI, with some customers even saying President Trump is the biggest salesperson for sovereign AI architectures. Now, at Uniphore, we sell a sovereign and open data and AI platform, and that's why customers are talking to us. But this is a theme that's becoming louder every week now. So
what LLMs are customers demanding the most now? Are you using Chinese models or are you using Mistral? And how will that change?
Well, two of our biggest markets are North America, US, and Europe. In US, Gemini, Anthropic, OpenAI are still in the lead. Some of the biggest regulated businesses even telling us that don't even talk about Chinese models. We believe, our developers believe those models are phenomenal, but our customers are not ready in the US. In Europe, I see a lot of Mistral, I see a lot of Anthropic, etc. But here's the thing. Customers are realizing that switching cost between LLMs is trending to zero. Last year, it was about, my customers were asking me, what's the latest model? What has Gemini done? What has OpenAI done? This year, customers are beginning to realize, listen, this changes every 6 weeks and everyone's catching up. So let's actually start talking about what's the real business outcome that AI would deliver as opposed to what's the latest LLM.
So you're also, I understand, working with KPMG. Is that right? What do you make of the future of consulting?
Well, in Davos, we announced a big strategic collaboration with KPMG. Had you asked me this question last year about big consulting, big system integrators, I would say I'm worried about their future. What I'm beginning to realize, what's changed, is both those firms now have a solid strategy. But like I said, the customer conversations, we serve over 2,500 customers at Uniphore, big banks, big telecom, big retail. The conversation is shifting to outcomes. And firms like KPMG, in partnership with technology providers like Uniphore, are putting themselves in a position to deliver what's being called outcome as a service. Which is to go to a client and say, let's not worry about which GPU versus CPU, which LLM of latest generation versus older, which agent. Let's actually focus on which business process you want to optimize with AI agents, and we'll deliver the entire thing on an outcome as a service model. And that's where these consulting firms are almost feeling a resurgence, and relevance is back to them in this agentic world.
Look, and that's, you know, it kind of encapsulates some of the big questions that we have, but there's also a lot of, I guess, concern about valuations on AI firms. I know in Europe we spent a lot of time looking at SAP. You know, it lost some 39 billion euros in market value because it was disappointing financial results. I mean, do you follow things like this? Does it help you decide what happens next, or is it just market moves that interest you less?
Yeah, I mean, as you would imagine, this talk of AI bubble is almost deafening. It's been for the last several months. Just yesterday, Microsoft announces earnings, misses its growth. Instead of 39%, does 38%, and the stock's down 10%. So from my vantage point, I don't see an AI bubble. Are some private valuations in Silicon Valley exuberant? Sure. But that always happens. Each time we see internet or Bitcoin or cloud or SaaS, any new trend, VCs tend to get ahead of themselves and, you know, overfund some early stage companies, out of which emerge some winners and some won't. This is the typical Silicon Valley model. But if you look at public companies, NVIDIA's price to earnings, NVIDIA is a very cheap stock to own right now. Microsoft, over 100 billion of cloud revenue, growing at 38%, missed its growth projection by 1% point. I think we all need to take a deep breath. We are in very early innings of a $5 trillion market opportunity, and we're just in the build-out phase. So from my vantage point, the bubble fear isn't very well-founded right now.
What are your plans for the company? Do you plan at some point to IPO?
So look, we raised our Series F round, which you mentioned, $260 million at Uniphore, with NVIDIA, AMD, Snowflake, and Databricks investing in our financing. Becoming a public company is an attractive proposition to both me and the team. But right now, as you know, as being a company headquartered in Silicon Valley, the U.S. market for tech IPOs has been shut mainly for the last 4 years. I am very bullish that we're going to see some big ones, big IPOs this year. There are companies like OpenAI, Anthropic, Databricks, Canva, which are in the pipeline. And if some of them go in 2026, we're going to see those markets open. We're going to watch the performance, and right behind that, we're going to start to make our own plans of IPO.
Okay, Umesh, thank you so much for joining us. Umesh Sachdev there, a co-founder and chief executive of Uniphore. I hope you come back anytime you're in your